What's good? It's your boy Fanon. Okay, we're going to talk about the 154-pound tournament. Excuse me, the 154-pound division. I've got my mind on the World Boxing Super Series, which I'm really excited about, and I'm hoping is one of the divisions that they could include in that tournament, but more than likely will not. However, this morning I'm talking about Jarrett Hurd and some news that came out about his return. As you guys know, the Jarrett Hurd is one of the 154-pound title holders. He is a exciting young boxer, and honestly, man, one of these guys that have really started to come on in the public's eye in the United States, and has a growing fan base. Now, the bout that I of course want to see is Jermell Charlo versus Austin Trout. Right now, there are 3 champions in the 154-pound or the super welterweight, junior middleweight division. That being Jermell Charlo for the WBC, Jarrett Hurd for the WBA and the IBF, and the new guy that kind of jumped from out of nowhere with a blatant mismatch against Saddam Ali, Jaime Munguia. The bout that I want to see, and the bout that was being talked up before Jarrett Hurd fought Iserlandi Lara, who he won the WBA belt from in a unification fight in his last fight, was Jermell Charlo. Jermell Charlo from Houston, the twin, has a twin brother, Jermall Charlo, who also just fought recently and had beaten Austin Trout. But Jarrett Hurd underwent shoulder surgery, and now, according to an interview that he gave with the PBC and was reported in Boxing Scene, he's not looking at going at facing Jermell Charlo next. Looking to be in kind of a Keith Thurman-ish type of situation where he's coming off of a shoulder surgery, and as a result, he thinks that he's going to need at least 6 weeks of 2 weeks of no activity, 6 weeks of therapy. So altogether about 2 months before he believes that he can be fully back training. And then after that, he says that he wants to get a tune-up fight. And since he's coming off having faced 2 southpaws in a row in Lara and in Austin Trout, that they want to be able to get some bouts in against some right-handed boxers, and then and gets a tune-up fight in just to make sure the shoulder works right. And some of the people that he mentioned facing would be Julian Williams or Brian Castano. Now, Brian Castano is the WBA regular champion. As we know, people know Brian Castano is Brian Carlos Castano, and I lost this question in a trivia contest that we did last night with Marlo's Corner on the channel, is the WBA regular 154-pound champion. And then Julian Williams, who just came off of a good bout against Nathaniel Gallimore, a good Jamaican 154-pounder that I do believe he fights out of Chicago. Julian Williams is ranked number 1 by the WBC and number 1 by the IBF. He's number 3 by the WBO. And so, I mean, as far as a tune-up fight, I'm not sure if I would call that a tune-up fight against Julian Williams. J-Rock, I think, is a better boxer than some people give him credit for. Of course, J-Rock has 1 loss on his record, and that's against Jermall Charlo back in 2016. So about a year and a half ago, I guess about 18 months ago, where he got knocked out in the 5th round by Jermall Charlo. Jermall Charlo, as a lot of people should understand, man, Jermall Charlo's a big boy. And he's a guy that more than likely can wind up at 168 pounds. And I think Jermall Charlo would probably do that to anybody. Would do the same thing he did to Jermall Charlo against anybody in 154 pounds. I think when Jermall Charlo was 154 pounds, that he was clearly the class of the division. He never did get a shot at Canelo Alvarez, but that's what I'm hoping to see out of Jermell Charlo up at 160. But J-Rock ain't anybody's tune-up, man. That win against Nathaniel Gallimore, I mean, he showed that he can box. He shows that he can bang a good bit. He just beat, I mean, what did he fight before that? Ishe Smith. So, he's a veteran. I mean, he's a young fighter turning into a veteran in Julian Williams. So I think I would take that bout. I would take that bout, but I don't know if coming off of shoulder surgery, the first guy that you want to jump in there with is Julian Williams. So if he's saying that he wants to get a tune-up, I don't think either one of that, Castellano or Julian Williams, is what I would refer to as a tune-up. Now, the other thing with, as like I said in the beginning of this, there's a lot of fanfare around Jarrett Hurd from people out east primarily. What is he, from the DC area? He might be from Silver Spring, Maryland, right? But he's somewhere in the Washington DC metropolitan area. I get a lot of slack when I said he was from DC, and people from DC want to say he's from Silver Spring or he's from PG County. Hey, look, man, not everybody in the country knows we know the DC area for the most part. I used to go to school in DC, and hey, man, whether you from Maryland or whether you from DC, that all of that back and forth, man, that's for people who are actually, from that area, living in that area. For the rest of the country, man, Jarrett Hurd is from the DC metropolitan area, because otherwise, if it wasn't for the way that the federal government is laid out, DC would either be part of Maryland or be part of Virginia. So anyway, it is what it is. I digress. Look, Jarrett Hurd is getting has a lot of fans up there, and his fan base is growing, rightfully so. The dude is a very, very exciting boxer. I've not seen a boring Jarrett Hurd fight, and I'm looking forward to seeing him get in the ring again. However, I gotta caution you cats that are really high on Jarrett Hurd. Unless Jarrett Hurd starts to box, Jarrett Hurd, because I believe that Jarrett Hurd has those skills. I have a hard time believing that he doesn't. It just seems to me that right now his defense is his face, and boxers who, first line of defense is the fact that they can take a punch. They look spectacular for short periods of time, and before you know it, man, they start slowing down. They start slowing down just a good bit. Now, it didn't look like. Clearly it appeared in the Jarrett Hurd Austin Trout fight that Jarrett Hurd walked through Austin Trout. But in the midst of walking through Austin Trout, he took a whole lot of shots, man. He took a whole lot of shots. He took a whole lot of shots against Islandi Lara as well. And even though he's able to, quote unquote, walk through those punches, eventually, man, that stuff is going to start showing up. Now, as far as his potential matchup with Jermell Charlo, the younger of the Charlo twins, or excuse me, I don't know who's younger or who's older, but the smaller of the Charlo twins, the 154-pound champion, Jermell Charlo, the WBC champion. I don't think Jarrett Hurd is going to get out of that fight, man. He's going to have to box, because Jermell, unlike Austin Trout, Jermell Charlo's got more pop than Austin Trout, and he's got considerably more pop than Islandi Lara, and he's a bigger guy. Jermell Charlo, though he can stay at 154 pounds, and is noticeably smaller than his brother Jermell Charlo. He's not a small 154-pound fighter. And the approach that Jarrett Hurd took to beating Austin Trout and beating Islandi Lara, man, I think that is going to be a lot of danger against Jermell Charlo. And because Jermell Charlo, number one, Jermell Charlo can pop and Jermell Charlo can box. So, he can win that fight either way. So, I have in a Jarrett Hurd Jermell Charlo box match, I have Jermell Charlo. I don't think Jarrett Hurd is going to be able to just walk through Jermell Charlo and keep coming at him. He's going to wind up having to box. Now, admittedly, there was, when Jermell Charlo, they have a common opponent, in a recent common opponent. They might have more than one common opponent, but they have a recent common opponent in Austin Trout. Now, Austin Trout, I think, performed better against Jermell Charlo than he did at the end of Austin Trout. But I mean, at the end of Jarrett Hurd, when he got knocked out and he just got tired and he wound up not being able to come out. But other than that, I thought Austin Trout was winning that for a large part of that fight with Jarrett Hurd. He was winning that fight. But Austin Trout ain't no joke. And both Jarrett Hurd and Jermell Charlo deserve a lot of credit for having beat Austin Trout. The danger, I think, though, for Jermell Charlo in this setup is if Jermell Charlo actually fights Islandy Lara first. If Islandy Lara, I think, because of the relationship that those two guys have, Islandy Lara could beat Jermell Charlo. I'm not saying that I would favor him too. I mean, right now where I'm sitting with Jermell Charlo and Islandy Lara, I'm sitting with it at a 50-50 fight. But if he has to wait, Jermell Charlo has to wait for Jarrett Hurd, and Jermell Charlo decides to fight Islandy Lara, then, hey man, that match between Jarrett Hurd and Jermell Charlo might not happen. But on the real though, that Jermell Charlo would have to choose to fight Lara or be forced to fight Lara. I don't know. It's, by the PBC or by Showtime, and as far as who they want to air. But Islandy Lara is for the WBC. I don't think he's been mandated. I don't think he's been named a mandatory yet, but he is the number 2. Julian Williams is the number 1 ranked contender is the number 1 in the WBC. But as you know, with the WBC, that doesn't necessarily mean that either one of those guys are going to be named the mandatory. I know Jermell Charlo the guy that Jermell Charlo would probably love to face the most, though, is the number 3 guy in the WBC, which is Kell Brook, because that way he gets to pop that boy's eye socket. And he said if the money's right, he would go over there to the UK to do it. Actually, I think that Kell Brook versus Jermell Charlo would be an entertaining fight while it lasted. I'm just not big, however, on guys that have broken eye sockets, right? In 2 of the last 3 fights. And then the one fight that he had, which I think was, I don't know, that wasn't Lo Greco. I think Lo Greco was on a welterweight, but whatever the guy's name was that he just fought, I was thinking that was Lo Greco, but no, I think Amir Khan fought Lo Greco, and Kell Brook faced Robchenka, and that was like that just second round knockout. Really didn't have, it was a minute into the second round, didn't really have a lot of time to have anything going on. But then I do believe later this month it's supposed to be Brandon Cook that Kell Brook fights next. But anyway, man, it'll be interesting to see what happened in 154. But yeah, I just kind of joking a little bit about Jarrett Hurd taking the Keith Thurman route by having shoulder surgeries and needing tune-ups and all of that and all of that type of stuff. But I won't say that's the case on him yet until it happens twice. If it happens twice, and then because he was all gung ho to get in there with Jermell Charlo, before he had unified. But now I'm thinking, then I started thinking, maybe this guy just he realizes that he's the guy that has the 2 belts and kind of jumped to the front of the line as far as the championship belts at 154. Now, I would love, but I do not think this would happen, to see either one of these guys in there with Jaime Munguia, the 154-pound, the WBO 154-pound champion, who just got done absolutely, God, wow, just absolutely demolishing Saddam Ali in one of the biggest mismatches that I've seen in a long time. And to be the champion, to be in a gross mismatch against a champion, that's really is saying something. But I don't know how long Jaime Munguia is going to be at 154 pounds. I think Jaime Munguia is destined for 160, if not 168, because that's a big boy, man. So, even if Jaime Munguia did face Hurd or Charlo, I would favor both of those guys over the green, but yet very, very talented and very promising Jaime Munguia. Anyway, it is what it is, and let's hope that we get that the 154-pound division continues to put on great bouts like they did last 2017 and so far in 2018, because it's one of the most active divisions in boxing, and I hope where the guys at the top are facing one another. And I hope that continues to be the case, and that Jarrett Hurd, this doesn't really wind up being an issue for Jarrett Hurd. And with that, I'm out. Peace.